Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today there's going to be some grinding, some banging, some screwing. Oh yeah, that's a good screw. And things are going to get hot and sticky. Another one in the middle. Let's get going. Okay, so puns aside, the job today is to get the back corners into the car. And maybe some more, but I'm not going to commit to that just yet because you know how I get carried away and sidetracked and go on little side quests. Let's have a quick look at those, shall we? At the end of the last episode, you will have seen that I've got these just held in with a couple of screws just to sort of get the position roughly where I want it. They're not permanently where I want them to be, but they're close. These corners just need a little bit of a tweak, and the same could be said for this end. These corners, they just point out a bit. There's not quite enough curvature here, so I think that's the first thing to deal with, is getting these curved there as I want them. If you've not come across this kind of self-tapper before, they are honestly brilliant. Let me just whiz them out for you. So these are designed for screwing directly into metal. So it's a Phillips drive screwdriver on one end, and on the other end it's kind of got like a little miniature drill bit. You can point it at whatever you want, say this edge here, and you can just hold the drill in the right place and in it goes. So really good for just clamping stuff in place while you're working around other problems, for example. Oh yeah, that's a good screw. Now as for these being the wrong shape, but you can see this straight edge here where the top curves. I've been watching a little bit of Retro Power lately, and you see a lot of their metal forming techniques, and Nat does a really good job of explaining them. So I'm going to try a couple of his methods out, and I'm going to try and stretch this corner over. Wish me luck. I'm really happy with that. I know this bit here goes out of alignment, but I think that bit needs to go over so that the curve will be closer once it's tacked into place. But for just some really basic tools, I'm really happy with that. It's time to make this side here do the same thing. Now, if you watch the Retro Power channel at all, I've seen Nat refer to metal along the lines of pastry. So the more you squish it in the middle, the more it forces other stuff to the outside. So like you've got a rolling pin on plasticine or Play-Doh or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, you can see very clearly here, the curve goes round and it stops and it goes straight. So in order to stretch this round the corner, what I was doing was on the internal side, knocking along this edge to sort of squish the metal where I want it to go. And the more I squish, the more you see this bent angle change. And I was using a flat hammer, but I was hitting the flat hammer with the ball peen hammer. So using the rounded end on the flat to kind of squish the middle out and work it through there. Now, ideally when you've done this, you want to have an English wheel and you want to roll the English wheel to get all the lumps and bumps out. I haven't got one of them, but I have got filler. If I quickly show you how I was holding this, so I've got a bit of wood. So if you hit it on the ground, you can find that it's a bit too bouncy. The hammer can bounce back up. So I was using the square part of the forming hammer to fix that corner in there, and then just roving it round a little bit by a time. Take it off, check it, put it on, try it round some other way. So we're starting to get a little bit more curve in there. It takes some time, and you also have to squish this bit, because if you're going to stretch that, you also have to stretch this outer edge that's trying to stop it, trying to hold it back. So I was then hitting this side. Let's give it a little bend straight and see where we are. Go along that edge, redefine it, and then we'll see where we are. So you can sort of see here, we've started to get a little bit more curvature in here. It's going to take time, it's going to take some swearing. I'll put you back on time lapse and I'll see if you can see the difference when it's done. Now it's kind of hard to show you with only one hand to do so, but that whole curve there fits that shape a whole load better, and this one actually needed an awful lot less tweaking. Maybe it's because I've done like the other side, obviously. I'm actually really pleased with that. I'm going to take a minute and just clean up the stickers out of the way, clean up all these edges and get rid of the lumps and bumps, and just make sure there's nothing on the inside that's going to make this a bit tricky. And then we might be at the point of tacking it into place. Okay, so as you can see, everything has been shone back to as bare metal as I can be bothered to take it. It's all back to bare metal there. And before I actually start tacking stuff in place, I think it's an important time to mention a very specific tool. For those of you who don't know, this is a joggler. So I'll start with this close to the camera so you can see it, but a joggler is effectively a metal step bending tool, and if you spin it round, is a hole punch, and it's great for punching holes through sheet metal when it comes to doing plug welding. If I get this here, I'm going to need to do a few plug welds along this edge, along the curve and along the bottom, so I can put my bit of metal in there, give it a squeeze, there you go, straight through. There is one nice hole, so you can, I'll probably only go for two. Do two will do? No, we'll do three. We'll do three on that short section there. So there, 3 holes punched. It's way easier than drilling them. And I think I picked this up for, I think it's about 15 quid off of Marketplace, as is ever my favourite place to pick up tools that no one wants anymore. So you can honestly get the holes put in your panels ready for plug welding in no time at all. It's redonkulously simple. And that is that one, all holed out and ready to be plug welded. So I've obviously got a few to do. I'm not going to do this back edge here because I've got the plug welds on here. That's that one done. I'm going to get a couple more in this one and we can get cracking. This is going to sound weird because I'm sitting inside the thingy now. Well, let's just make sure this works first of all. Yes. Little buzz there. Another one in the middle. Lovely. Okay, so I'm going to just start working my way along this edge here, and then I'm going to jump over the other side. I'm going to do the same as I've done here, get this lower corner piece in place. Okay, so as you can see here, we are all tacked in place. That's actually gone in really nice. I'm really pleased with how that's gone together. Really quite pleased with that. You know, it's in and around the corner. A tiny, if you can see it in there, tiny little pinhole in that corner, which I shall attack from the other side when I come to do this bit here. So I'm just going to get the boot floor bits in and get everything on the bottom in place, so I've got a bit of a better idea of where everything needs to be positioned, and then I can get these corners tacked in. Okay, while I admit it's not the prettiest welding you will ever see, it is actually okay. I ended up finding that if I was welded at an up angle and dragged down, it kind of melted this edge down into it. So I was kind of doing an action like this as I'm going along. Now I know welding upwards isn't the greatest thing to do, and I've still got a little bit of refinishing to do along this edge here, but it started to cough and splutter a little bit when I got to this bit, so I thought, you know what, before it starts to get completely overheated and I don't get anything in, I'll go over to the other side and I'll start just sort of like getting this tacked in a couple of places. And I got to here, and then the wire stopped reading out. I'm thinking, what's going on, what's going on? Ah, yes, we're out of wire. So I'm going to run a quick wire wheel, flap wheel over this, just to sort of bring some of the high spots down and see if there's any low spots that need filling, and I'll have to go to the nearest Halfords on the way home from work tomorrow, which is very annoying. While I need to take this little break away from the car to go and get some welding wire, I just thought I would mention that if you are enjoying this content, I'm going to put some links up sort of here or here or here, maybe in all of the places, of some of the other bits and bobs I've done on the car. Because if you're only just joining me for this back end part of the car, there's a whole host of stuff going on the front. I've got a custom bulkhead in there, I've got some lovely orange paint. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this so far, go and check out some of that stuff. And I'm going to nip to the shops and I will be back in a jiffy. Okay, that was about the longest trip to the shops I think I've ever had. Here, I did the last bit of recording on the Saturday. We were out on the Sunday, and on the Monday I stopped on my way to work to pick up the welding wire, which is here. I've got it. And then Monday evening, the daughter came home from school poorly. So between me and the wife, managing shift work, it's now a week later. Enough of the excuses, let's get cracking. Okay, I've reached that annoying part of put stuff in, take it back out, make a cut, put it back in, measure, make a cut, take it out. It's going to be a bit of back and forth from here, but the corner's in and I've started cutting the gap. So you'll notice I put this corner in bit by bit. Obviously I tacked it in various places and then I joined up the tacks as I went. What I hadn't bargained on was up here where the previous repair panel was slightly higher than this repair panel. It was the old weld line where I'd ground it back to kind of make it flat. I'd actually ground it so far that there was nothing there. So as soon as the weld got near it, it was gone. So I had to build this edge back up, and I might have to go over this edge again to rebuild things, but not the worst welding I've ever done. By the time it's been flatted down and filled over, you'd never know. I put the boot in, scuttled on, kind of clamped everything roughly where I wanted it, and then I made a mark. And I bravely went forth and cut it because gap this side for the boot lid and that side was kind of okay. I had a bit of wood kind of wedging everything on the inside where I wanted it. So let's hope this positive progress keeps being positive. That was a lot harder than I was expecting it to be. That was actually really, really challenging. The shapes just don't work as they are, but everything else lines up as it should. So I don't think I've gone wrong. I think it's just that the previous back panel I'd put on was terrible. Let me show you what I mean. Everything else is lining up exactly where it should, except where the boot joins. And if you look, this gap here is consistent, and I've checked it. It's the same gap here on the car and here. So this is a good panel. Gets to here, this bit is wider for this little bit here, and then it gets narrower again. I think the old panel that I had in here was just horrendous. It didn't matter because I had a fiberglass boot on. Pop bonnet springs on and away you go. Bonnet springs, boot pins. But yeah, there's going to be some serious chopping. I think I'll have to run a little chop down here and a bit of leverage, and I'll have to build this back up out of weld in order to make it work. But it's the opposite problem at the other end, which initially led to me thinking, oh, I've gone wrong here. I've gone wrong with the levels aren't right. The boot's going to be sort of wonky to one side or something. But I've stood back and I've checked and I've measured and I've put everything back in, and I can't see it. So it opens up too much here. So I think the old panel that was here was just awful. So again, I'm going to have to do the same little cut here, maybe even a few cuts, and just bend this down bit by bit to kind of meet this edge. It's yeah, going to be a challenge. I think I'm going to have a good quality stare at this, mess around with it a bit, and try and figure out where I need to go with it. So wish me luck, and I'll see you on the next one.